Hi everyone, my name is Trevor Gordon. For those who don't know me, I'm having the opportunity to interview different individuals in the community. The past few weeks I've been having the chance of interviewing different buskers that are part of the Port Credit Busker Fest. And basically in the next couple weeks, I now have the opportunity of interviewing different artists that are part of the Verse to Voice competition that's coming up. So I would like to talk about that. So the Verse to Voice competition is Canada's premier singing songwriting competition. The goal is to find talented singer and songwriters, showcase them, and give them the opportunity to network, perform, and compete for great prizes. You can learn all about this competition that is happening by going to versetovoice.com. versetovoice.com. This is happening right now. I mean, it all leads up to August 16th, 17th, and 18th, which is all part of the Port Credit Busker Fest weekend. But what's happening right now is if you follow Verse to Voice on Instagram, you're going to get to know all the different artists. And in the next couple of weeks, I have the opportunity of interviewing those singers, songwriters. So the person that I want to chat with today, his name is Joe Chammas. And he is one of the quarterfinalists that is part of Verse to Voice. So while I wait for him to join us, I want to brag about him a little bit. So Joe is a talented singer-songwriter from Toronto, and he has a song out called Miss Potato Head. Joe's journey began with a passion for creative writing, evolving from short stories and poetry to song lyrics. Initially inspired by rap and hip hop, his style shifted towards folk and pop as he picked up the guitar. Joe has owned his craft through open mic nights, local gigs, dedicated songwriting challenges, resulting in a unique acoustic folk pop sound with several albums and EPs under his belt, including the Window EP and Wiser Creatures. Joe continues to create and perform new music. So I'm just waiting for Joe to join. Fix my camera here.
Hey,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us. I know you and your fellow singers are really busy right now running around prepping for this event that's coming up, but I appreciate
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
joining us.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Uh, Sorry for a little bit of the technical difficulties in the framing here. Like I hit my tripod and I'm kind of shaking a little bit, but I apologize. You
That's
see
okay.
Prince on my right here getting cut off there, but I appreciate you got a nice vibe
Can't
happening in the
cut
background.
off print. Yeah, I tried to tidy up a little bit here.
Well, I appreciate it. So I have to ask you right up the gate, what was your first reaction when you heard the news that you made the quarterfinals for Verse to Voice?
Oh man, excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, I've been. I mean, I've done all sorts of gigs and stuff like that, but it's been a long time since I've really entered a songwriting competition like that, like this. I've been more of like what I'd say a studio musician for the better part of the last few years. Like I've never stopped writing songs and recording music, and that's kind of my bread and butter. So it's nice to get the opportunity to get out there and actually start performing in front of people again and I'm kind of like I've been in a little bubble, kind of recording and writing these songs. So it's nice to know that on a wider scale, people are digging what I'm putting out.
Well, you kind of answered my next question, but I mean, what motivated you specifically to be a part of the Verse to Voice competition? I mean, there's so much
Yeah,
out there, so many things happening all at once. What drew attention? Like what?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just it, man. Just getting out of the studio, as it were, and back on the stage, like just getting a chance to do this again in front of people, engage with the local community, engage with other musicians, which is something that I've been kind of feeling the itch to do a lot more in the last little while. Yeah, you seem to forget how fun it is to make music. Like if I go a couple weeks without picking up the guitar and then I pick it up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I love doing this, because like it's just so it's nice to be able to get the opportunity and get out in front of people again. Yeah, I jumped at the opportunity, and I'm so glad to be a part of
Now,
it.
I have to say, I mean, I do have some set prepared questions, but as we're talking, I can't ignore that you have a lot of support here in the chat room. Someone said, Lily says, "Yay, awesome job, Joe." Rebecca says, "Yay, Joe." It seems like you have a lot of supporters that are quite excited that you've
I
made it to the
do.
quarterfinals here.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. That it was so great. Like, I sort of reached out to like my friends and the people in my circles to be like, hey, this is the thing that's happening. You know, people are able to, and a bunch of people were very supportive. The other songwriters in the competition are so supportive. It's been really cool. Rebecca actually painted that thing behind me, which is awesome. So it's cool to see her here.
Well, you touched on something I was going to bring up. It's so interesting. This has literally only been the first couple of days of the announcement about the
Mhm.
finalists. And what I've noticed just from just looking at all the profiles, it seems that all the artists are sort of writing underneath each other's posts, like, giving shout outs to each other. So as much as it's called a competition, I'm not really feeling that sort of competition. I'm feeling such love between each of you right
It's
now.
truly incredible. And like one of the first comments on my post was from a fellow songwriter, fellow quarterfinalist, and was just so nice and thoughtful for people to yeah, check out each other's stuff, because like I said, this is an opportunity not just for us to like, yeah, we want to like self promote and get our music out there, but this is, I love discovering new music, and I discover a lot of my new music these days through social media and stuff like that. So these are people who are sitting right under my nose in the same locale who are incredible musicians. And so naturally we want to, support each other. It's been so far, you can tell the community is really coming together, which is, one of the best parts of this whole thing.
I mean, the way you're talking, you seem pretty excited and confident, but did you have like any fears or hesitation about entering this competition event?
Yeah, certainly. I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I was like, I have been kind of recording in a bubble for the last little while. Like, there was a period of time for a few years where I was gigging pretty consistently. And over the last, I'll say 5 or even 10 years, I've still been, like I say, recording constantly, writing constantly, and doing the odd gig and going to open mics here and there. But like, it's kind of like poking my head back out of the curtain and be like, okay, are people still into this? Like, or like, and I had reservations about it because I don't, like, there's that imposter syndrome. You don't feel like you're as seasoned or experienced as the other people. And you get to see some of these musicians, and everyone's coming from all walks. People have been doing it for a long time. People have been doing it for a short time, and it's just, yeah, the sense of community kind of helps allay any of those fears that you might have coming into it, for sure.
What inspired you to become a singer-songwriter in the first place? Like, was there a specific moment, like a moment where you had goosebumps on your arm, or something that just like a certain song, or just something that just said, "Yeah, that's what I want to do."
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of, you touched on it a little bit in your intro. Just the opportunity to be creative always struck me, where it was like, oh, I like creative writing and stuff like that. And it's like, I kind of like poetry. Maybe I'll write some poetry. And it's like, well, music or songs are just poetry with, a lyric, with a music or a beat under it. But like you alluded to the hip hop thing, I was really into like rap and hip hop when I started. And in, I think, grade 8, I was told to write we had an assignment to write a rap about a historical figure in Canadian history class. So I wrote a rap about William Mackenzie, and I was the only person who went up there alone to do it, and everyone else, did it in groups. Everyone was like, "Oh, wow, he actually can do this," and that was kind of one of the weird sort of turning points for me, where I was just like, "Oh, I can get in front of people and like put out something that I wrote, and people respond to it. This is incredible." And then obviously it evolved from there. I don't write raps about Canadian historical figures anymore. It's it's mostly reflective stuff about my life, but especially over the last few years. And yeah.
I have to ask you this: is there a particular song, or what is a song you really, really like that might surprise others?
I don't know. That's a good question. You know what, that Sabrina Carpenter espresso song that's like dominating the airwaves right now. I cannot help how catchy it is. Like, it's a bop. It gets stuck in my head. I think that there was a time when I was younger, when I was like, when I first got into songwriting, actually, when I was just like one of these snobs about pop music, like that's like, oh, it's all the same and they don't write their own songs. And like, thank goodness I grew out of that phase. Like pop music is an art. Like, there are hooks and the way that they write is incredible. And I think now to that end, I don't think there are a lot of songs that people would be surprised I listen to because that's Joe. He listens to all sorts of weird stuff. It'll be jazz one moment and metal the next moment and like a pop singer songwriter the next. It's everything. So I love it.
So you have like maybe a hidden playlist that's called Guilty Pleasures.
No, man, it's all out in the open.
That's
Like I'm
right.
not guilty about anything.
There you
Like I mean, yeah, it's I think now that's becoming more of a thing. People I think everyone at one point it was like you were cool and different if you had an eclectic taste in music. And I think like music is so kind of like the genre lines are blurring so much that I think everyone is getting into everything, which is wonderful. That's how it should be.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who has never heard your music before?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, so as part of like this competition and like stuff that I used to do when I was a bit more like prolific in terms of entering contests and like trying to doing gigs and stuff like that, you're writing bios for like press kits and stuff like that. And I wrote a line in one of these short bios that said something along the lines of like mostly reflective, sometimes raucous. And I feel like that's a good description of like like for the most part it's like sort of like reflective folk pop singer songwriter music, what you'd expect when you hear the term singer songwriter. And then there's moments where I'll surprise you and I'll pull out something a little more upbeat and a little more excitable. And especially when it comes to songwriting, I've definitely been experimenting with like other instrumentation, and I'm excited to like record a lot of the stuff I've been recording. I'm super excited to like put out. So I feel like that'll be a fun experiment to see how people respond to something they may not have expected from me if they've been listening to my music before.
For those that are just joining us, we are talking to Joe. Joe is one of the quarterfinalists as part of Verse to Voice. I have to ask you this is like, what do you hope to achieve with being a part of Verse to Voice?
Um, like just to again sort of get back out of my comfort zone a little bit and start the process of gigging again. I've been seriously thinking about collaboration and sort of like getting to know other musicians and engaging a bit more with the local music community. This is such a great opportunity to do that and expand my horizons a little bit, and just a great opportunity to sort of like meet people. Like this is yeah, like I said, it's the first thing I've done like this in a while, and I think it came at a pretty pivotal moment. Like I've had a lot of changes in my life over the last few years, and I've been really sort of hunkering down when it comes to like recording and writing music. So it's like this is the last piece of the puzzle. Like let's go. Let's start to get in and do some music.
You're getting some love for your Instagram handle. Best Insta handle ever. Have you been told this before?
Uh, I have not. I mean, my last name is Chammas. It's Instagram, Instacham. I love plays on words. That's the songwriter in me, I guess. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Share with us, I guess, the ways to connect with you and hear your music. Like, are you on, Spotify? Like, just give us all your handles, ways they
Yeah,
can support you, hear you.
sure. So it is Instacham here on Instagram. It's just Insta Chamn, which is the first four letters of my last name. Joe Chammas is my name. You can find me if you search up on Spotify. I've got a full length CD on there, and CD, I still call them CDs. A full length album from 2012 that a friend helped me produce, and that's called Wiser Creatures. And there's an EP on there that I self produced, 3 songs in 2020, which I'm very proud of. So you can find me on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all those platforms. I'm pretty sure I'm on all of them. And I've got a Facebook music page as well, Joe Chammas Music. Um, yeah, Instagram's probably the best place to follow me because I'm usually posting like little clips of cover songs or original songs and trying to sort of always be putting some music out into the world in some capacity.
One question I failed to ask you earlier is maybe describe the song that you submitted in the first place, Mr. Potato, Miss Potato Head.
So Mrs. Potato Head actually came out of since the beginning of since 2020, essentially, when I put out that EP. In January of that year, I joined up with a songwriting competition, not competition, a songwriting challenge online, where essentially the challenge is try to write one new original song per month for the whole year. And I went through the whole thing in 2020, and then everyone sort of disappeared after that year. And so in 2021, I picked it up and moderated it, and have been moderating it up until now. So I've written one new song per month since the beginning of 2020. And I like to sort of go through and dig through those songs and find out which ones are kind of the best. And when you're forcing yourself to write a song, sometimes it doesn't feel quite as natural. So when it does feel natural, that's when you're like, this is one. And Mrs. Potato Head was one of those, where it was, again, been a lot of period of transition in my life for the last little while. It's about a particular relationship, and it kind of just sparked at the right time. And one of those things where you can barely keep up with what your brain when you're writing on the page, and it just turned into that. So yeah, it's about an old relationship, and as a lot of songs are. And I thought that the metaphor was pretty apt. So yeah, that's Mrs. Potato Head.
Well, thank you, Joe, for your time. I know you're a busy guy and you're running around. I appreciate the time you gave us this evening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, for those that have been watching this, we're talking to Joe. He's one of the quarterfinalists for Burst to Voice. You can learn all about Burst to Voice by going to bursttovoice.com. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you. Have a good night.